There you go, Red.
All right, so I got two going for redundancy. So thank you guys for popping in. It's great to see a lot of the old faces, a lot of the new faces again. A lot of people are joining out in the communities. Like we were joking before, I got the recordings going. I kind of heard there was a little bit of news that dropped this week and stirred up the bee's nest, if you will. A lot of excitement, a lot of news, and I want to kind of rehash a little bit, bring some people, a lot of new people up to speed. For those people that have never done a campfire before or used Discord stages, what's definitely nice about this is obviously it's a audio format. We have the speakers up on stage, and then there's the audience. Anyone in the audience, if you wish to join in the conversation, you can certainly raise your hand using the UI at the bottom of the screen, and then one of us can admit you up into the stage, and you can certainly participate. If for whatever reason you don't want to join in on the audio side, we do have a text chat that we use as kind of a chat room. So if you wanted to use the Diablo Campfire channel, that's always being monitored by somebody. If you're in another channel, we will, try to catch it. If you have anything you want to add in, questions. I know, what was it? A few minutes ago, I saw Doc2K had thrown in a couple talking points. And then obviously Jen and Wad had thrown in some screenshots of stuff that dropped this week. So this is definitely kind of casual conversations, the way we've been running it. Sometimes, like Nemo pops in. I know he loves being here. So thank you definitely, Nemo, for joining in and allowing me to host this. And then we'll have other people that will drop in periodically. So we bring in some different points of view. So I know, we've had Echo Hack stop in the past. Echo was here a couple of weeks ago. And in the audience, because she was here last week, Jen, who is the host of the Shattered Soulstone podcast, and she's definitely brought some different points of view, and we had some really good conversations a few weeks ago at the last one about just differencing in physical abilities of people and modifications that people are doing as far as in Immortal. And then obviously we all fanboy and fangirl about Blizzard and Diablo Immortal itself. And there's definitely kind of lots to talk about. Like I said, anyone in the audience, if you wish to participate, you can raise your hand. I have that monitored. If you have something you want to drop in, I know there's a lot of chat going on right now in the Diablo Campfire text chat. And you can definitely participate that way as well. I'll bring it into the conversation. So this is definitely a different format, like the Nemo and Echo vids. We don't need to tell you guys the news. I know you know it all. You've definitely seen it. So let's talk about it. Let's kind of dissect it a little bit. That obviously it hit the Immortal store. That was a huge milestone for me as far as that road to release. And moreover, we even have an official, unofficial, or an unofficial, official release date, which is so thrilling to people. So, why don't we kind of start there with the iOS release and the release date? I know, Nemo, you and Echo have talked a lot about that in your last two vids.
I'm ready. Are we there yet?
Yeah, I know.
Seriously. By the way, thanks for hosting the campfire, and yeah, I love being here. So this is exciting. This is a big milestone, right? That we're actually getting this far, and then it's listed on the store, and there's an actual date. I don't know what anybody says. I'll just speak about my own personal point of view here. I know you heard me talk about it in the videos, but in general, I feel like this is probably I know they're saying this is a a placeholder, but I really think that's actually going to be closer to the date. I wouldn't even be surprised if it might even go past this date. Now, don't shoot the messenger. I know like we all want it earlier, and maybe it will be, but I just don't get the uncertainty. You know, if by this point they're not sure if it's going to come out by June 30th, and maybe that's why there's a placeholder. There may be some things that are writing that might push it a little further or a little closer. One thing I know, this is the first time they've actually committed to a date, so this is exciting, and I feel like it's a light at the end of the tunnel. And being here since 2018, right? I've never had a light, so I'm pretty excited about that. So that's the other thing too. I'm also very excited about the fact that when they talked about in the last blog post, they mentioned this whole class change system that's coming. And I know we'll talk about it later, but the whole general idea is they actually drew the line in the sand and said that it's coming after the release, right? It's coming in the first update. So that means that they are actually driving to a date. They know where they're going. We just don't know yet. That's why I think.
Yeah, definitely having that, I work in software deployment for people that don't, know kind of, been in conversations with me in the past, like being able to define this is release candidate 1 or 1.0 is huge, and moreover, and that, obviously, Nemo, you touched on it, to have now said that this is going to be in version 1.1, what means, like you said, they drew a line, now we have it set in stone, and they're still going to develop. They're still going to build on. They're still going to, have these plans, which, we've certainly been talking about and excited for. For those people that have never played or been a while since you played any of the Diablo games, there's obviously a lot of classes they could add in, or even like specific builds or, parallels too, that they could add into Immortal. And I think it's great that we will see continued development there, obviously, and they're invested in it, obviously. I mean, Wyatt's talked about it. He said that, this is going to be their goal. And then there's still job postings that go up all the time about, UI interfaces, storyboarders, story builders for the game. This is definitely not a one and done situation. They want to keep pushing it, which again, it's great. It speaks to, the team that's there. And obviously, most of us, because I know it's not all of us, have been playing, the last 20 years, 20 plus years playing some sort of Diablo game. The games themselves have a huge fan base, have a lot of longevity. And it's for that reason that, all of us are really here when it comes down to it. Either we played it 20 years ago and we want to keep going, or, we've been playing it for 20 years and, this is just the next game because it's the next interface, or, there's definitely people in this audience here. You played it because your parents played it. Which is kind of weird when you think about it, but it's one of those. I'm in that boat where I have, my kids, and when they're a little bit older, yeah, they'll definitely be playing or have the option to play it. They're right now just a little young, but they'll definitely get there. Release date. Now this is where I kind of split hairs, Nemo, because it's one of those. Depending on how we define it, you could be right and you could not be right, obviously. Because it's one of those they've said release date is the 30th of June. But I also look at it like, how do they define it? How do I define it? Because they could do a global release of June 30th or something in August. I don't know. Let's go worst case scenario. But that's still 90 days going. 90 plus days going. And then where do we fall as far as like soft launches or regional launches? Because they've done it in the past. They've done it with other games, where they do regional rollouts. And I know I would think in my practices, that would be the best bet, because it's one of those, just with the most recent rollout of D2R, where they threw the switch and all the regions went live. Obviously a different type of game setup, but that was interesting. There was lots of issues with that deployment.
That's a good word to put it. Interesting, yeah. Well,
And it's one of those, obviously you can't plan for every situation. It's all going to be interesting.
that's a good point, though, you bring up, right? Because in general, when you're talking mobile deployment, what I've seen in a lot of other games has been always a rollout. It's always like a regional thing that it starts, and then a lot of the times, actually, even other games, they would start a beta and then would roll it into a global release once it goes. Again, not in this game. Nobody really knows how it's going to go, but generally it makes sense. Like Red said, in software and etc., you want to make sure that you kind of start in one region or maybe a region, focus on it, and then expand and roll out to sort of have the most stability. Going the other way, like they did in D2R, is one of the toughest ways to go if you really think about it. Because if there are bugs or issues, you turn on, open up the floodgates. That's like the whole time. It's really hard to contain that type of stuff. So if there are going to be issues, they'll be on a global scale, and it's just going to be even harder to sort of fix. But nobody knows, but I'm going to guess that they're going to go live and just turn the switch. I don't know. What do you think?
At least to me, I'm going to be that big proponent of, they're going to do it regionally. Again, it makes best practices. We've definitely, seen Australia, has been on a couple different times. We've seen, I think Japan was in 2 tests, Canada, I'm assuming they set it up brand new for beta, but there was, region 2 with the alpha, closed alpha. So I'm assuming there was, some level of testing, and it really does make the most logistical sense to me to bring it up in different zones. And even if they were to, we'll say, temporarily shut things down, for a 2-week span and then resync everything at 0. I mean, I guess they could do it that way too. But it's one of those, I just look at it because of like the exercise that I just went through a little bit ago at work. Even just spinning things up in test environments, each test environment is a little bit different or just enough different that it was a pain in the butt to get something working. And then we finally pushed it out to production recently, and that alone had its own bugs because it was a brand new install. Once it's installed, like in the Canada servers or in the Australian servers, hopefully it's a little bit easier to get that one going again. But my biggest concern would be, when they throw on, however it breaks down, we'll say, EU West and EU East, or another Asian market or the SEA market, however those new ones come online, that'll be interesting because they each have their own little environment issues.
See, I think the problem I hear you and it makes sense right there, but I also feel like the issue with that will be, and maybe it's a compounded issue, but if certain servers go online, what makes other people from joining and starting a tune there and not being able to switch when the other server goes on? There's another reason why I feel like not the best practice, but I feel like I honestly think they're going to go down the other route for syncing issues and all of that. But you make 1,000% sense. Like that's exactly how you want to roll out things. And in other games like Brawl Stars, all kinds of other mobile games on these types of rollouts have been what you've mentioned before. So.
And I know, Powerful Shammy just dropped in, the splash page, it looks like from Diablo 3 of servers busy. And you're totally right that, oh, well, if I'm sitting here in upstate New York and I can see that, people are playing in Australia, there's, at least from what we've seen in alpha and beta, there's zero reason I can't acquire the APK, acquire the install, and then just start playing in Australia. It's certainly possible, and it looks like it should be that way. And I wonder if, maybe they don't have their cake and eat it too, and maybe do like regional rollouts and be like, let's start whitelisting and blacklisting for the initial rollout. And if you're in an Australian IP, then you connect to, an Australian server and you play on Australia for a while. If you're not in Australia, you don't play over there. That's a big logistical nightmare. People will use, VPNs to get around it because people are like that. I've seen that with, other beta tests. But then on the other side, then there'll be that conversation of, oh, well, I spent, so much money in, that server and I can't take it with me, and that'll be its own chaos.
I can see a couple of problems with this right off. As you've been saying, if somebody decides, well, they unlocked Australia first, so I'm going to go play over there and make a character over there and, buy the whatever the pass is called there. One problem with this is if the game thinks that you are actually in Australia, you're going to have to pay with Australian dollars instead of, say, American dollars or Canadian dollars or whatever, I think that's going to be a hindrance in some cases for people trying to do that. In addition to what some of you have been saying, that you can't just pull your character off the Australian server and move it to the US servers if you've already made one there. It's not going to go that way. But the other thing that I'm thinking of is if they don't decide to, like, if they decide that they're going to go region by region by region, or instead of all the regions at once, for reasons you guys just talked about, there's going to be people really ticked off that their region didn't go first because everyone's dying to play this. So how are they going to? They're going to have to make a plan to kind of cope with, nasty comments online because somebody's server didn't go up as the first one. And I think that might be a problem.
I bet you if they do go down that route, US is not going to be first.
Right. We haven't been in the other things. It was Australia. So
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Or again, they could do, kind of an accelerated rollout, where you're right, Jen, if I'm not the first server or the first 5 servers to go in, I'm, big loud voice on the internet. I'm going to complain and say this game is horrible and never going to play it and just make a big negative stink about it. But I wonder if maybe, and I could see them possibly having some bandwidth to do this. All right, fine, we're going to do this. We're going to do it in phases because it really makes the most sense. But we're going to kick things into overdrive and, do all the regions in like either hour or day, increments, so they bring them all online in phases, but realize people that, we're going to, and I know they did that with, was it D2R? I'm picturing
so.
An image in my mind of here's a world map, and they were saying that these regions were coming online at this day and time, and this regions was coming online at this day and time, just to get it up there. Because it's one of those, it's not going to be, great however it works. And, obviously, if they throw the switches and let everyone go, we're going to see horrible pings. We're going to see, server load times just to get through the door. And that makes for its own negative, press. And it's one of those, I don't envy anyone that has to do this. I don't care, big, small, or how many, teams of developers and support staff you have with them.
I think the advantage they have, though, is that with Diablo 2 Resurrected, they built it on the old hardware, essentially, so to speak, and, upped the graphics and that sort of thing. So when everyone came in, there were certain, glitches and things that they didn't know from if they did testing on it previous to launch. They didn't know that those things were going to pop up. And that's why they had to do the whole thing of gating who could get into the servers to play every so often and that kind of thing, taking it down over and over to try to fix stuff. With Diablo Immortal, I think it's its own thing. So at least they won't have that problem. Hopefully. There'll be some glitches, there'll be some bugs, but I don't think it'll be, as catastrophic as it seemed like with D2R right away,
Well, especially too when you consider when D2R launched, so many people had expectations of this is what I'm getting into. I know how it's supposed to run, and it's one of those, at least at this point in time, however many it is, how many tens of thousands of people or whatever, have actually experienced Immortal in any capacity. And, I can tell you from my experience, it was not uncommon to queue for Battleground. It was not uncommon to queue for a dungeon. It wasn't because, it was a pain to get in. It was more because there just weren't enough people on the server at that point in time.
Oh, that makes sense.
But like, I don't know what it should be running like. I don't know how it should be going, which would be interesting.
It's come a long way though, because I played it at BlizzCon 2018, and it had like 2 character classes that you could choose from, and you could play together with somebody that was also playing it, in the convention center and all that. And it seemed really cool at the time. There's been so much added to it now. I'm hoping that they've been like tracking like how does this break things all the way along, because otherwise it's gonna get weird when these all start coming online.
Well, like to echo what you said, it's come a long way. What I love about it is that their ability to listen to us and really like on the fly change things. Really think about it, there's some major changes that's happened all the way through testing, and all of us are responsible for that. Like literally the things that we say actually mean, things to them, and they're swapping things and changing. Like I was one of the biggest people that screamed about the class change. And look, class change. Like what? I have never seen, I work with a lot of developers. I've never seen anybody be so in tune with the community, and there are probably going to be some bugs and issues, but from all of the testing that I've done, it would be like the tiniest little things. Like the only things that are left to really test is probably server load and whatever happens when they actually turn the full, because there's going to be so many people playing this, right? So on a big scale, probably the only testing that's left. But I tell you, I'm really excited that they're changing things and adjusting things.
I think what's
So you
helping
all
with that
heard
is
it here too, guys. Sorry, Dan. You all heard it here too. We would have had the game by now if it wasn't for Captain Nemo there saying that we need to have class change. It's all on him.
Boy.
You all heard it here.
What I was going to say is, I think a lot of the changes are coming through from, people saying, hey, we need this, or we'd like that, or this doesn't sound like enough, fix it, that kind of thing. I think it's because Wyatt Chang is leading it, and he's been the one leading it all the way through. Does pretty well with the exception of that unfortunate set of comments at the 2018 BlizzCon, but he listens. Like I've been to a few BlizzCons, and I've seen him be surrounded by people asking him questions about whatever was new that year in Diablo stuff, and he'd answer all the questions patiently, and sometimes people would hand him like a poster to sign, and he'd sign it and send it back still talking, and then he started doing a campfire at the events, sort of like later on in the night, one of those nights when it's not something huge on the stage that people will trek over to go see, and he pays attention to what he's being told and probably is trickling that down to his team. So I think that's why we're seeing things change in ways that seem to reflect what the community wants. Just
Agreed.
a thought.
No, for sure. He's like, I've listened to him talk and you've spoken to him, and he loves the game. He's like one of the biggest. That's what I've listened to and heard and spoke to a lot of other developers, and they talk about the game from the high level or from the design level or from whatever, but this guy loves the game. It's like his baby. I've never seen something like this before. I'm just really excited to be part of it. I think it shows in a lot of the rest, because I think that all of them are like that. But every one of them that I've met is just like us. They're just developing the game, and this is like their baby. So they're trying to make sure that it's the best, and it shows. So I'm pretty excited.
Yeah, it does show. And I know the BlizzCon where Diablo Immortal was playable in the convention center, and there were 2 panels for it, and the first panel is where everything got heated, and then the second panel was a little bit better because that group didn't come back in. But one of the things he mentioned on stage, and at the time, I was there, and I'm texting things into the Soulstone Discord to tell people what was going on as fast as I could. And one of the things that Wyatt Chang said was there's going to be an NPC character. Now, this was said in 2018 and may no longer be true. that was named something that I thought I heard as Chen, but everybody in Soulstone was like, they named the character after Jen. I'm like, no, 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 that can't possibly be right, you know? So I found Wyatt Chang later because everybody goes to one of the two bars right around the convention center and found him. And he was talking to a group of people off in an area that was a little bit quieter than the rest of the bar. And so I waited and I asked him, okay, so I know there's a character and everyone in my Discord thinks it's named Jen. Can you tell me if this is true or false? I just need an answer for them when I go back home. And he was very kind and he said, okay, I do not mean to disappoint you, but no, the character is not named Jen. The character is named Chen. Sorry to disappoint you. I'm like, well, you don't owe me a character. It's fine. You know, I just needed an answer. But he answered. He took a minute from talking to people he was talking to answer that question. And that's how into the game he is, that he wanted me to know, because that way I could tell other people, you know?
I can hear him saying that. I really can.
Yeah.
He's such a
And
nice
that's
guy.
the other side. As you pointed out, he listens. I mean, it's one of those. He's trying to hide in the audience with a hood over his head. Sleep Twitch is here. From the Diablo Immortal community, and it's like, I know when I look through there, if I check out, who else is in that right hand panel, there's almost always a green dot, next to Wyatt's ID, or Pez, or one of the other people in there, and they're constantly reading, and they may not be reading all the time, and then it may not read everything, no one can, especially in the last
Right.
couple days, but they're always there, and it's also of their own free will, because like you said, I'd heard about Wyatt do his story times, or however he called them. I never was there, but it's like I would love to just sit there and listen, because whenever he talks, even when he was doing some streams on Twitch, a coding challenge stream, like just to sit there and watch how this man was processing, was like that's crazy. And he can articulate some very complex things in a way that most people will understand it, or at least keep up if you wanted to, so that was definitely something pretty neat to do. And it's one of those, even some, I know I've even seen, not really personally, I guess it was his family, they would do, a lot of stuff with escape rooms, like the storytelling that they must go through. I know I've seen them advertise, board games that he's playing, or checked out in the last couple of days. Like clearly this man, can take you from point A to point B a dozen different ways, just to run through it, which is a great skill. And it, it's something that he clearly conveys into, Immortal. And, I know I've seen so many people, articulate that, like, mobile games, they're developed in 6 months. And, that this delay of almost 4 years now is just ridiculous. And it's like, no, but you can develop in 6 months Flappy Birds. Like, that is a mobile game. It's only going to be playable on mobile. It's only developed for mobile, and you'll never see it like really be successful. Yeah, I know you could still get Flappy Birds and how many other duplicates, but something like Diablo Immortal, it's like, it's not a mobile game. Like I try to get this in people's heads. Like you can play it on mobile, but it's not a mobile game. It's a Blizzard game that they put on a mobile device. It still has that high caliber, okay, there's, pay to win, mechanics, as people keep placing it, there's, playing it on a 6-inch screen instead of a 60-inch TV or whatever. But it's like, it's still a Blizzard game first and foremost, and that's definitely, something that we're seeing, and that they own their way through it, right at the top with Wyatt and Pez, or Wyatt and Adam, right down to the developers that are there. I'm assuming that they have similar passion, because it's the team that's built around it, that they all share in that ownership, which just, it speaks volumes.
They're very cool. And by the way, Wyatt actually designs the rooms. Did you know that? he designs escape rooms.
Yeah.
Like for fun. He told me that. I was like, that's insane. So it actually makes a lot of sense, to be honest with you. Um, but so another question. Maybe we can move on from the good old talking about the launch date. Let's talk about. I want to talk about class changes too, but let's talk about the cosmetics really quick. Did you guys see the sets that they brought out, and what do you think about them? I think I would love, to be honest with you. The only thing is, actually, my question is, do all of these sets, do they have anything to do with actual gem resonance? I don't know if anybody's going to be able to answer my question, but
I don't know if
you
that's
see
been released or
the
not.
sets, like you know how they
Well,
talked about the sets and they said it's going to come with the pass and all that, but so you'll get whatever set for that month as with the battle
Mhm.
pass, which is cool, and it'll be available for every class, which is also cool. But the way they look, do they just look like this when you get the set, or do you have to have max gem resonance for them to look that cool?
That's what I'm seeing. So you're looking at like the sets themselves. They certainly talked about a couple different ones. There's the Ghosts of Ashwald, for
Yeah.
pre-registers, and then there's the promise of monthly, enhancements to those cosmetics, which are like they all look really. I mean, because I'm looking at them too, like they're really sick looking. And I think those are going to be its own appeal. And then there's on top of that, and probably even without the skin cosmetics, the resonance themselves. I think there is going to be a new mechanic. I mean, basing off of their announcement, and I'm just going to look at that first. We've can see that here's a concept art of a necromancer, and it's adjusted by resonance, is what they say. So there's got to be some sort of
Yeah.
leveling of resonance. Here's what one resonance gem looks like, a second gem at resonance, which to me means it's got to be a little bit cheaper to get to, if you will.
That's already in the game, right? So the gem resonance the only thing is nobody will be able to get to it until you're like at the highest of the levels. So it'll require it's end game. Like we're talking past level 10. That's when gem resonance starts. You have to get your legendary gem past level 10 to get into resonance, and then continually just push it up. But
So,
does that mean?
Nemo,
Yeah.
I just posted in Campfire here. So actually, what we haven't seen yet, it does say at the highest level of resonance that you unlock cosmetic wings. So far they haven't actually even shown us that what the person will look like at the highest level. So I don't think we've actually seen the end product.
On the sets you're talking about?
Yes, I just posted it. It says
Let me go look at
every
it.
legendary item in the game has its own unique visual progress to accompany your gem's growing resonance. At the highest level of your resonance stats, you'll even unlock cosmetic wings. So I believe those are pictures of the resonance process as it says it, but we still haven't seen the final picture of what the gear will look like.
Right.
Okay, that
'cause
makes
it
more
says
sense.
it says in here let me see if I can find it. They're concepts. It says concepts for each class. So
Well,
concepts can change.
And moreover, what I'd also argue out of there is that there's a like everything else, they give you the details, but then there's that choice of words that gives you a little more detail. At the highest level of your resonance stat, you'll even open cosmetic wings. What is a resonance stat? And I'm just going to leave that question.
Did you see the video that Echo Hack put out about the gym resonance?
Well, I mean, it's one of those, I was going to allude to that. Yeah, the Echo Hack dropped the video. What was it? In the Diablo Immortal channel, there was a shot that BlizzPlanet pulled from, I think it was the Japanese campaign site. I've got these links. I'll share them out in a little bit. But it had a screenshot of the inventory page, and there was kind of a little redesign, and one of them was like in the top corner, like a golden gem is basically what it looked like. And there was a number underneath it. And I think the picture was like 3,000 was the number or something to that scale. And there was a bunch of characters that were not English. I couldn't read it. And Echo Hack gave a personal translation. He said that it may be the this gem resonance stat was kind of the breakdown of what I got out of it, connecting it to this article. So it's one of those, we may now see a new mechanic, so that maybe that, sorry, Echo Gaming, we may not see the, that Echo Shard anymore, because it was too end game, or maybe the one that gets the wings requires this Echo Shard. But
Echo
there's
Crystal. Echo
yeah, Echo
Crystal.
Crystal, thank you. There may be this idea of leveling up your resonance to increase your resonance stat, whether it's ORDR tied to the Helquery or whatever, to actually enhance your physical look.
It's your passive stats. It was actually in the game already. I know a lot of people did not get to it because it's such an end game system. But once you get past level 10 on your legendary gems, you go into resonance, and then you just have to infuse more gems into it. And the higher you go into resonance, the more it increases your like little passive stats. And now it also adds it plays into the look as well of all these levels that you're talking about. But that's how it's all going to be connected, which kind of in turns what I was talking about. Like, in order to get to those looks, you're going to have to get your gems past level 10 to even start. And that's going to take forever. So,
It'll give you a lot to
yeah.
do, though, if you get there. I mean, I probably won't get there quick enough to catch up with everybody else, because that's how I play now. I have a lot of chronic illnesses that just wipe me out. But I don't know. It's gonna be done like the soul shards that are in season 25, where you got to level those up too. Is it that kind of system?
So, sort of a no, but the issue with that is it's not about playing; it's about how much money you spend. Because
that's different.
Legendary gems are it's you have to get legendary crests, put them into. I mean, you get some for free for grinding, but it's only an X amount. So to get to level 10, those gems. I have a whole video about it, breaking down how the gems work, and I actually upgrade them. You get the regular gems, and then each gem has a star on it, a star power that's kind of random.
Okay.
So you can go from 1 to 5 stars and basically roll. If you roll a 5-star gem, it gives you like the most potential if you start upgrading it. But like level 1 to level 2 gem is just taking one gem, taking another one, and putting it into it. But the higher you go in the levels, it's exponentially higher. It takes more and more gems to infuse into the gem you already have to go up the levels. So at like level 10, it's something like 150 gems or something like that.
Wow.
It's insane.
Okay.
And,
I
then
don't know
gems
if I'll
also
have
have
the
rarity.
patience. Mm-hmm.
They have rarity and quality to them too. So a regular gem is a 1-star gem. It's a lot easier, but it only goes up to a certain point. But when you have a 5-star gem, one of those best, highest level gems, each one of those levels is multiplied exponentially. So like level 2 to level 3 is 50 gems. Level 3 to level 4 is 150 gems. You know?
Okay, good to know.
Each one of those gems is $2.22. So good luck.
And in some cases, some of them can be, you just need gem power. You just need, 150 gems. But sometimes or whatever it is, but sometimes it's like, okay, now it's not, you don't just need gems. You need a specific gem at this rank to push it up too. So there's a lot of, the recipes are not, as straightforward as some places may be. I don't have any analogy to like D3 as far as how that might have worked or how that works, but it's one of those like leveling it. I didn't put, a boat ton of money into the game. I only, put in for the battle pass every month. That's, what I was comfortable playing at. I didn't have content to push out, so I wasn't gonna, buy everything just to see what it was like. Even though we got the refunds, the credits, which is great. But it's one of those like, I only got my 5-star gem up to a level 2 the whole time I played.
Oh,
like
wow.
there was no way I could conceivably push it any further unless that was the only gem I wanted. If I knew everything else just to push this to level 3, I could have done it. And it's one of those like that's also just because of the timing. We only had it for a good number of weeks. When it's actually in production, a free to play player could push that higher. Someone who's just paying the $5 a month US, will be able to get it leveled up. But then there's some things like that level 10. To achieve resonance, at least so far, the only way that we knew you could do that was you had to physically purchase the Echo Shard, gem. The only way we saw how to find it. And it's one of those, maybe they fixed that. I hope they did. Because if I have to pay for that gem multiple times just to get sick looking costumes, it's one of those, some people will do it, but like that's going to be a mental trade for a lot of people.
Yeah, so that my next question is, my original question was about that. It kind of brings us back to that, right? So if you had to do the gem resonance, you have to get the gems, upgrade them past 10, make a decision whether you're going to go for a 5-star or a lower gem to get there faster, and then do all of that, and then buy the echo crystals to get to the rest of the gem resonance, which, by the way, you will have to do so far. I haven't seen anything that changed. And if you do all of that, like, the question is, do you need to do all of that to look as cool as those pictures look? I guess that's at the end of the day is my question. Because if you do, it's going to be a while. And the craziest part is they're talking about putting out a set every month. That's another thing. Let me ask you a question.
Wow.
What do you guys think about that? One every month? That's kind of
What's
insane.
it tied to? That's my first question.
Battle Pass.
Yeah, well, I understand the battle pass, but is it something that's just going to be you have the battle pass, so here is your new set, or is this going to be here is a new set for people that do X thing in the game in a certain amount of time, or how are they going to do that?
They'll probably put it at the end. I'd say probably one of the
Yeah.
rewards is to finish the battle pass or something.
Yeah, that makes sense. It could be that, but I mean, with the way y'all are talking about how much it costs just to level up the gems for things, I can see some parents who let their teenagers play this game just blow a bunch of money on it without their knowledge and have some problems later on if it's going to be one every month,
It is
Well, I mean,
interesting how it's going to be tied.
Yeah, I mean, from what
what?
I'm seeing,
I was saying that it's interesting how it will be tied. The look to the gems, because it shouldn't be, in my opinion. But go ahead, Ray.
and yeah, I was gonna say, and I wonder, like you said, how they do the unpacking, the delivery of. Is it at the end of the month you get it? Maybe they give you pieces as you progress through, the tiers, and then, I can see things like, okay, here's the, we'll say like the Frost inspired set, or here's the Gigantosaur set, the one, because they talked about the cosmetics changing your size.
wow.
Here's the one that makes your barbarian look like a skinny person or whatever, or change the colors. Like, I can see them kind of doing it a couple different ways, maybe doing it like the secondary set pieces that we saw, where if you collect 3 of the same set you get this look, and then if you collect all 6 of the same set you get this look. Maybe they do something like that, but that'll get very complicated with the image renderings. I could kind of foresee. But it's one of those, like, from what I'm also kind of getting, the gem resonance, or the resonance, was only tied to the gems themselves. And when I buy the Echo Crystal, it is applied to a gem, and then I can take said gem and move it from piece to piece. So realistically, there's going to be a purchase of this Echo Crystal. I'm trying to picture it in my mind. 8 times? No, 6 times.
Yeah.
For the legendary crests, and then you could transition it from one piece to the next.
Yeah.
But to your point, like, if I had to buy it, 6 times, some kid might just buy them because, or buy
Mhm.
8 just because, sure, 8 was the next number in line, and they don't even think about it. So it's one of those, we'll kind of see how that gets implemented. And even then, what I would really like is if there was we'll say the free to play version, so that the people who can't spend money for whatever reason, hopefully they at least have that opportunity to unlock that look at some point in time.
Yeah, there
Even if it's
definitely
not
should
right
be a
away.
way.
Yeah. Even
You
if it's
get-
like later on, you get it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed. You should be able to get it and save it,
Mm-hmm.
like for when you do.
Yeah, I get that. That makes sense.
I'm going to petition that we also have a Nemo crystal, because I don't understand how Echo gets a crystal and a cavern. Like, what's
He's
the
got
deal
cavern
there?
of Echo.
Oh wow.
It's unreal. I mean, I gotta talk to Wyatt. This is BS, man.
And he's gonna tell you, "I'm sorry to disappoint you."
Yeah.
Just guessing.
Oh yeah, he'll say that. Oh, good deal. All right, that's cosmetics. What else we got?
Yeah, so cosmetics was definitely a big one, and I like to see where they're going. It even looks like maybe there's enhancements to, they've got the concept of resonance impact to the wizard legendary Thunderbird's bites. And there I wonder if they even do it instead of like to the whole costume to the, maybe
The
specific weapons. That might be cool.
Oh, neat.
Or even
That might
just
be
for, in
alright.
the case of the wizard, maybe make it a little flashier when the fireball goes off. Like, okay, there's the fireball, pew pew, and then there's the fireball, like Haley's comet shoots across the screen. It doesn't do any damage; it just looks cooler. Or I wonder if something like that would happen. And we'll get to Doc's question. I know you had one, but we'll kind of finish up the article. And Jen, I kind of want to get your impressions on this one, since I know you come from the D3 world. Class changes is the other one. Obviously, that's kind of the new one that I give Nemo crud about. That idea of being able to change classes, mid run, I think is, and Nemo touched on it. It's both a good and bad thing. Because it's one of those, like, if a new class comes out, I may want to play it, and I don't have to start over, which is great. Or at least I don't have to fully start over from level 1. I may want to jump into that because everyone keeps reading about the Blood Knights. Maybe I do want to jump into the Blood Knights, and I just have to grind for equipment, and I think that's definitely got a good appeal. So long as it's, as you kind of cautioned Nemo, so long as there's a gate to it, about the frequency. You don't go in and just change your class, like, whatever it is, once, to me, it's like once a month or once every 6 months when they do a big patch. That would be reasonable. Or maybe there's an ability to buy, to switch some classes. And I know, Nemo, you definitely had some questions on that, or feedback out, but anyone else, and you can throw this in the text chat. What are some opinions on that class change mechanic that they now have?
Okay, I think you asked me a question in there somewhere about class changes. Is that right?
Well, I don't. To my memory, like Diablo, the D3 doesn't have a class change to the same mechanic, and maybe it does, and I'm just that far removed.
It's not the same mechanic. Like I've had, like, okay, if I play a season and I feel like I'm not getting far enough with whichever class I started with, I might switch it out, but then you start at level 1. And you have to go get all the gear for that class that your other class, can't give to you because it's a different class, that kind of thing. But at the end of the season, when you jump back into off-season for a while, your character can stay at whatever level they were at the end of the season. So you don't start from level 1 with that character, at least not in my experience. And, you can bring in gear from the season if you want to keep some or all of that, and can find a place to put it in your stash. So, I mean, that's fine. I've seen people switch out classes because they got tired of the class they were playing or felt like they couldn't make much progress with it and moved to something else, It doesn't sound like this is what Diablo Immortal's talking about. It looks like it's kind of gated to some degree as to how often you can change classes. So it's possible that they don't. What?
I was gonna ask you. I was gonna ask you a question about that. So with D3, right?
Yeah, D3.
Well, I play, so I'm with you. So you play
Okay,
your
yes.
seasonal class. So that's like the newest, hottest thing, right? Whatever, like usually, right? They come out with. And
Well, when the Necromancer pack came out, I went to Necromancer from Barbarian for a while. So I mean, yeah,
but
I
then
get it.
when
You know.
when you finish with that season, right? Let's say you're done for the season, you take the Necro, it becomes your regular character. So it goes into your stash basically, like, and you can
Yeah.
play with the Necro, but
Right.
then play with someone else, right?
Yeah, you can. Because you
Right.
can, like, even when the Necro patch was out and that first season where the Necro was live and you could play them, it just, your character goes back at the end of the season to your regular, non-seasonal play, and whatever gear they're wearing, they keep. Whatever stuff they had in their stash, they can pull out of their mailbox at the end of the season and decide if they want to keep it or get rid of it at that point. That kind of thing can happen easily, but and then next season, if you want to play that Necro again, you can start him over with the season rebirth and start at 1 and go for it again, or you can do that with a different character, or just start a brand new one somewhere. But that would start him at 1 as well. It sounds like the Diablo Immortal one. It looks like, from what I'm looking at the news from Blizzard about that, and it sounds like it says when you change your class, you'll retain all your progress on Paragon levels. You'll receive a new set of equipped items appropriate to your new class and can transfer all of your item progress and gems to get them or to them. So it's a little bit different. It's like a little more. It's like iterating upon Diablo 3's system to make it somewhat better in Diablo Immortal. Is my opinion on that.
It's kind of a rebirth, so to speak, but you still have your stats. Like you still have your. A lot of people are forgetting. Like you can still go and play with your classes and have your 5 or 6 other classes ready
Right.
for whenever you want to play. The difference between Immortal and D3, and I agree with you. I love D3. I always play with the Witch Doctor because it's my favorite. But that's just me. I love Witch
That's
Doctor all day
fine,
long.
yeah.
But the idea here is that you have like you're paying for stuff versus in D3 where you aren't. So like these gems are
Sure.
actual value of money. So if you play another class, you'll have to double it. You'll have to pay for the gems again. So with this, it's just a way for you to be able to swap between classes and keep your gems and things that you basically keep everything. That's what it is. It's Beast Cherry. You're keeping your Herodric. You're keeping all of that, everything, all of the stats, ORDRs, gems, stashes, all of the gear. And when you swap, they give you a set of gear that you swap into in case
Right.
like you don't have it because it's the first time playing in class. You won't actually have to go and like fish with the legendaries and then take them and put them into the essence transfer vendor to have them available. But eventually, I suppose, once you have played the classes enough, you'll have all the legendaries you need, and you'll probably be able to swap between the classes whenever you want. And so this is where the question comes into frequency. So if we're playing the game, and I've played as a barb, I've been playing for, I don't know, a long time, and I have all of the different classes and all of their sets, I'll be able to swap between them easily, change my gems or the structure of things, and just be able to play with either class I want.
Right. And I think people will do, like, maybe they'll do 2 classes that they like, and they'll use one for, like, farming stuff, like in the smaller dungeons or whatever, and they'll keep their main, essentially, and sort of swap
Yeah.
all that stuff over to that one. I think that might occur.
Yep. That makes sense, actually. And there's another question.
I was thinking,
If that's the case,
thinking about
okay.
thinking about this and I have never heard anyone talk about that I wonder how it'll be implemented, and suddenly this becomes a little more valuable. I think, Nemo, you would agree with me that right now when you do and anyone else here, when you're doing a build of a character, like the weakest mechanic you can do on your build that we all do, but it doesn't really have the same impact, is charms, right? And part of that is just, or the most part of it is just that I spend this time and money, and charms become a go to the lottery, pull the one-armed bandit, and maybe it helps me, maybe it doesn't.
Yep.
What if you roll a great, monk charm, Nemo, at playing your wizard? If you can switch to being that monk, you can now use that great charm.
That's a good point.
Mhm.
Before, if I was a wizard and I rolled a great monk charm, it was useless to me. I just sold it on the market, got some platinum, and did what I wanted with it. Now, suddenly, and I wonder how this will really work, is what if I can now use that charm for my own character?
Yeah, I'm with you. No, that actually, I think it's great. The only thing is, this is what I wonder. I'm not sure if it was ever really an option before, but having multiple tunes makes almost no sense to me now. I don't know if it made any sense before because you have to pay for all the gems and whatever else, but I don't really see why you'd want to play like with a different tune. Maybe for the storyline.
Would the storyline be that different by class? Do we know that?
That's a good question. I read it 3 times. I should know. Uh,
I haven't had as much time in Diablo Immortal because I'm iOS and they didn't let us have that for the last couple of them. But
I think maybe
you know.
maybe dialogue. I'm trying to remember.
Yeah.
I think the storyline was the exact same. I'm trying to remember, but
Okay, so you wouldn't need it for that specifically then, if that's so.
that's true.
Yeah, but I do think
To me, about the
people are
only
gonna.
reason
Hmm?
only
Go ahead.
reason to really run 2 tunes, if you really wanted to, would be to like really experiment with different types of builds. Not that you can't do different builds now, but I'm just thinking like if you really wanted to run a barbarian that was of this build type, and you have another barbarian of a different build type, because like getting legendary items and legendary gems is kind of a random game. You may or may not get the ones that you want. That's about the only reason I could see running multiple tunes. But at some point in time, when you get all the legendary gear, you can hot swap at any point in time too. So it's not like it's a huge benefit. Or if you're like, I'm going to
Brought up a
buy the
good
battle
point.
pass
Yeah.
and maximize it, get all the goodies or most of the goodies, a couple different times. But that's still a huge time commitment.
Check out. Actually, Kitten brought up a very good point, Red. You might want to do it if you wanted to play on different regions. So you could have,
And we're back to
one
that.
tune,
Yeah, yeah.
you know, like I'm doing that. That's for sure. I'm going to be in all of the Scrappy Echoes everywhere in the world. Can't wait. I'm going to spend so much money. This is crazy. But now, I think it's a great thing. Like, but here's the question: do you think there should be a frequency to how much you can change, or how fast, or like, do you think there should be once, like I was saying in the video, per day, per hour, per minute, per year? What do you think? Does it matter? Is the question.
I don't think it's going to matter that much because I think people have their own point of, okay, I'm going to make this many characters of this type and that's it and I'm done and I don't want to spend any more money than that. They might be doing it that way, or maybe they don't have time to like have more than 1 or 2 characters,
So
much less go to a different region,
here's a scenario for you. You ready?
Mhm.
So, let's say we're at the highest levels of the Cycle of Strife, and we're about to have a fight this Sunday. Okay, I'm the
Okay.
Immortals. You were the Challenging Clan,
Mhm.
and let's say they issue an update to where there is one class that's a bit OP than all the rest of them, and everyone switches to that class, and you see
I mean, they could.
1 million
yeah.
barbarians running around.
They could do that, I suppose. But if the result of doing that, one has other people go, oh hey, that's how we can win this, and they start making a bunch of barbarians as well. Eventually, it's possible that that's gonna like lag the server or whatever it's called, or it'll just have a lot of people doing that thinking, well, this is the only way we can win, and it's going to make other people go, well, I don't really want to play a barbarian, so how am I going to do this, that kind of thing. If you're the only wizard out there with the 200 barbarians, I think you're in trouble
Yeah.
at that point.
Oh, you're definitely in trouble.
Mhm.
You were screwed. This reminds me of like the Matrix and Agent Smith. Everyone just turns all of a sudden
Yeah.
on the server.
Yeah.
It's gonna be funny.
All right. So I think we kind of hit, a lot of the high points on the news recently. I know that the Doc had some questions to kind of, we'll use it to kind of wrap things up a little bit. But before I jump into there, any kind of, we'll say like closing out thoughts, anything you want to make certain you get in as far as like opinions. Teacher Man, I see you joined us and you popped up on stage. I know you've been busy of late, but I don't know if you've got any questions that you guys want to drop in or your questions you need to ask before we
Not
tackle Doc's
not so much
questions.
a question. Hey, everybody. But I was kind of curious about this class change stuff you were talking about earlier and kind of the way to exploit it and Cycle of Strife stuff. The wheels are already turning in my head in terms of using it as an advantage in some way. So, whenever they add something new to the game, I always kind of get a little bit worried there's going to be some bugs there. So, it's just interesting.
Yeah.
Nemo, there's something that, sorry to, Red, there's something I wanted to talk about that no one's actually talked about in any videos I've watched. And I was thinking maybe you could think about it and put it in a video. But so it did say for cosmetics that, yeah, you get them through Battle Pass, but they want some of them to be earned through gameplay. And I think that presents a lot of opportunity that no one's talked about, such as personal achievements, like clan achievements, maybe even raid achievements. Like they're gonna have different difficulties of raids now. So maybe if you complete a raid on the highest tier, you get a cosmetic. But I think it gives them a lot of opportunity. And I don't know if you guys have thought about that, but I thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah, you actually bring up a solid point, and it's the first question that I asked. I went directly. I was like, "Hi, so I have questions. Number one," and then that's what I went to. So, and the answer to that is, so far the only thing that, and again, this is so far, so things are going to obviously change. Like you said, there probably is going to be something like that, but again, they didn't say yes or no. The only thing is, they said so far the only way to earn a free skin, so to speak, is through immortality, where you get the wings. So there isn't anything yet, but apparently, probably it's coming, because I was like, well, what can you do this about, because like it could be cool to have skins for maybe some of the top spots available for some of the leaderboards, or things like you've mentioned, like personal achievements. That would be really cool. But so far, the only thing is immortality. So don't bet on anything from launch. I suppose.
Okay.
Now that I'm thinking about this a little bit, I don't want to see in Diablo Immortal skins related to holidays like Overwatch does. I feel like it would really break up the whole ambiance of being in Sanctuary.
Jen, you also hit the nail on the spot. Now, I'm not going to mention names, but we were at an interview one time and somebody said that. Somebody said, "Ooh, could we get a skin that, that's the first thing I said. No, there's not going to be any skins. Like, you're not going to see like pink chickens running around or like Santas or any of that. Like, everything is only Diablo. You're right. It breaks the immersion, right? Like, are you serious?
Yeah,
No way.
it totally would. I mean, I'm not
Yeah, no.
like the skins in Overwatch. I've seen like Diablo devs or whatever post screenshots of here's the new skin for this character, whatever, and it looks cool within that scenario and that environment and all that. But I just think it would so break the immersion in Diablo
Yeah.
Immortal, or any Diablo game for that matter.
Agreed.
I
Or
just
holiday
saw
related.
the comment though, and I'll give a little credit out to it because we've seen it in D2. What was it? The cow skins. From our dog. They did do the Cow King. If you got all the set pieces, if memory serves, in D2, I wouldn't doubt there might be some, kickback to the Cow King sets. And I think that would be, definitely hilarious. And certain people will definitely find the appeal where other ones would be like, why are there cows walking through West March? I don't get it.
Yeah, but that's like the ongoing joke with the Diablo games. There is no cow level kind of thing, and so that I
Right.
get. That kind of works, But it may confuse some people if they haven't played it, But at least it's not a holiday themed one.
In which case they're wrong and they just need to play D2. I mean, and that's the thing I love about Blizzard, that they do all those kickbacks all the time. In every game, there's some nod or a cheat code or something to the old stuff that, for those that have been playing for years, totally get it and love it. And the other ones just scratch their head. Like, I don't get the cow joke. So let's kind of do a wrap up then, because we're over an hour in, of looking at Doc's questions. And then anyone else, if you have anything last minute, certainly add it into the text channel. So Doc kind of asked us, and we've touched on it a little bit already, Blizzard won't go from zero news to actual game release. There's always something. What do you think about some major checkpoints between now and whenever that release is? So, over the next couple of months. We've all kind of alluded to, there's probably another, blog post or two coming. Do we think that they'll do, and I'm leaning a little bit more towards, Jen and anyone else that's, a little more involved in the historical community. Do we think they'll have a spectacle announcement, whether it's YouTube or something, as far as checkpoints between now and release?
Possibly, if they want to show an update like these sets that we're looking at in the one thing, it says concept. So if they build this out beyond the concept or change the concept completely, I think they will show either in one of these here's our news post, or possibly in a little video, maybe just showing you a little bit of each of the changes so that you'll get interested and want to come play it. But other than that, I don't know what else they could do that's going to require a whole, hour-long video or something.
We'll just sit there and watch Wyatt play, and he can tell us about what's going on. I'd watch it.
Yeah, I would watch that too. Yeah.
All I'm going to say on my front is if I'm playing some app on my phone that just sometimes has ads and a Diablo Immortal ad comes up, I'm going to be pretty stoked.
Yeah, I can see that.
So I think that's actually one of the major checkpoints here. So you've seen ad campaigns started running in multiple places over there in Europe and whatever. Once you start seeing serious ad campaigns in the US, I'd say because we already have pre-registration going.
Mm-hmm.
Now they did set a date. This is the only thing that's throwing me off. They set a number of 30 million pre-registered.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big number.
Yeah.
That's huge. You look at any of the other titles, no one's that close. I'm curious how we're going to hit that.
Well,
Yeah.
that was my question. How long are we waiting? So that's sort of the only thing that's stopping me. But if that wasn't there, I would say almost pretty much any time, right? So as soon as the ads start running, I'd say within that month in the US, in my opinion.
The other one I'd be interested, though, to kind of help put you at ease, too, is all right, we want to hit 30 million. It's a line in the sand, really. Where are we now? Are we at 27 million? Great. That's wonderful news. We could do that. Are we at, 10 million? I'm just kind of curious, or how did they measure it? Is it, registrations to iOS, Google Play, and the website? In which case, let's see, I've got my phone, my wife's phone, my mother-in-law's phone. I can create a couple accounts real quickly.
You
just
can. Mm-hmm.
I'm going to push this forward. But I kind of wonder, how that's going to work. What about the TapTap? I know has its own registration. Is that part of it all at all? And so I really kind of hope, and I put that out on Twitter of hey, can we get a thermometer that says how far we're going, and how much more we have to go, like we do at the elementary schools for, fundraisers. I'd love to get one of those.
That would be cool. Put a skull on the top of it or something. Yeah.
And I know the other one I keep looking at, and this is my personal checkpoint, and it's totally my opinion, is May. I think there's going to be a big mobile May. I've said it so many times with the Warcraft mobile, coming up. I think it's one of those. We will definitely see a big mobile presence, whether Immortal gets it or not. I don't know, but it's one of those.
Interesting.
There will be something there.
Well, that would be the perfect ad campaign. Pre-registered now, and all these other games are getting all these people, and it's like, okay, we're gonna hit 30 million, no problem.
And it's also pointed out, Cheesy Frank just kind of asked, is the China server part of that, 30 million? In which case, we could easily hit that. But again, it's one of those, that's an open-ended question of, how are they calculating it? Technically the China market is separate because they're looking at the NetEase product. And I'm kind of curious how it all rolls together and how far or how close are we?
Yeah. Hey guys, sorry I came in a little bit late, but I have a question. Like that 30 million is just a target, but that's not necessarily when they're going to drop the game either, right?
We don't
no,
know.
that's
Just a target.
Right. That's just a target for the
Oh.
close. So I mean, even if they don't hit the 30 million, we could still get the game a lot sooner.
I suppose that's a good point.
On the other side, though, from what I've read, and I've had some discussions on this, it looks like that it's 30 million at launch, and then you can get that gear for 30 days afterwards. So I don't know how that's all going to work out.
Right. But again, that 30 million was just for that specific gear. I mean, if we don't hit the 30 million, even if it's June 30th and they don't have 30 million, they're still releasing the game. So if the game is ready and it's May and they still don't have 30 million, are they really going to wait just for gear? Or are they just going to say, hey, you know what? We didn't hit it, but this is where we're at and have fun.
Here's a consolation prize. No, definitely. I could see that happening.
Yeah. Cause I mean, at the end of the day, it's a business too, right? They're not going to wait for people just to get free gear. They're going to say, give me your money.
Probably true. Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Just to kind of knock it out, Doc asked, and other people might be wondering, will the revamped set items be a major part in final release? Well, I think it's in the blog posts, so yes. And I think they'll keep adding to it and getting player feedback and, tweaking it from there. And then do we have any thoughts? And I think the answer is going to be no about ORDR being removed from legendary gems or at least nerfed. I'll phrase it that way.
That's who said that was a thing.
No, well, we
Echo
haven't seen
Hat
anything about
talked
that.
about it in one of his videos.
Huh?
Echo Hack talked about it in one of his videos, and that's where the question came from.
Well, did he talk about it being
They're not removing
nerfed
that.
or that it should be nerfed?
He talked about it, I think, suggestion. It wasn't like anything he heard.
All right.
No. I was like, what? No. So we all said that, I believe, since the beginning of when we started talking about this whole monetization system. But no, they're not going to remove RDR from gems. That's one of the reasons what would be the other reason of having gems if you don't have RDR boost?
Yeah,
Right.
no. So Doc just confirmed it was from his suggestion video that it should be either removed or nerfed or something to that effect. One of those. I can see it being. It was very beneficial, and I think a lot of people, really took a bad place when they heard that. Oh well, buying legendary crests and gems means you're buying ORDR, and that's a negative thing. And I think that there was a lot of feedback on that.
I made a
So I'm
45-minute
assuming-
video about it.
Yeah, I'm assuming there's going to be some changes on that, but nothing's been confirmed.
There was going to be no
There's a
changes on that.
There's a potential they may nerf just the rank 5 gems, but I'm not sure just because they were so much more overpowered than rank 1 and 2. But who knows? Sorry, stars.
I don't mean to be a bearer of bad news, but I wouldn't expect any changes to gems. But we could all hope. In fact, there's new gems. Not to completely switch subjects, but and this actually I can speak about. This was data mined. if you've seen the list of gems that I was it like a while ago, WoW had or somebody data mined it, and I was looking through the list, and there's a massive list of gems that's coming, and there's a lot of 5-star gems in there that are like insane. There's a lot. There's a lot of gems coming.
So I'm always skeptical about like stuff that's been data mined. You know?
Same. Yep.
Yeah.
Same.
I always kind of go, okay, maybe that's what someone found, but is this something they were iterating on and that's why there's so many? Is it something they've thought about a long time ago and then didn't implement because of some reason? Is it something put in there to throw off the data miners? You know, I always think in the back of my head, like, this could be wrong, you know? And I wait to see what the game does. Mm-hmm.
Well, I started because it was a big thing for me, gems. I always looked at them, and right from start, right from the alphas, whatever, they slowly started introducing them, and exponentially the number of gems went up. And at one point, I went through, and I think when the first game dropped, the closed beta came around, I went through and I started looking through, because you can see what gems are around by going to the market, I believe, or to the jeweler itself. And I looked through and I was like, wow, there are a lot more gems. And every time there's more and more. So I don't know. It's kind of exciting to see some really cool ones. I hope that some of these gems that they data mine do come out because they're pretty cool looking. But yeah, I agree. I don't trust. Like Blood Knight and all that. That's why I didn't report on it.
Yeah, I don't know. I find it hard to... I'm more comfortable with stuff from the company itself or from like the higher ups that are making the game, or even some of the devs that are making the game, whatever the game is, than, oh, this was data mined, you know?
Yep.
So I feel like
Agreed.
at this point, I think every gaming company probably knows that somebody's trying to data mine their upcoming content, and maybe they'll put stuff in there to throw you off, or maybe they just are more careful about it than other companies, but it's... I feel like I'm not going to be able to trust it until I see it in game. You know,
That would be
it's just
really
me.
funny if they mess with you. And
I mean, they might have. You know, if you don't want people to data mine and then use that as a way to bring people to their website or their, you know, social media account or whatever that may be, you'd put something sneaky in there that looks really good that isn't going to come true. You know.
yeah,
And dissuade people. It's a long shot, but maybe, you know.
totally.
Yeah, I got in a little bit late, guys. But did you guys talk about the character changes, like being able to swap between tunes?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we did. Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'll have to listen to it after.
Yeah, don't worry, Joel. It's been recorded, and we'll get it up there.
No,
So I think kind of where we are, we'll do kind of a last minute, once around. If anyone's got last minute thoughts or comments, otherwise I think we can start spinning this down. We definitely unpacked quite a bit, and hopefully we'll get more in the not too many weeks to come. We see some more news coming out, or a blog post or a video, and I know even just watching the Twitter accounts, there's certainly more opportunities. So anyone have anything else to kind of throw in, last minute thoughts?
I don't think so.
It's always good to have you guys come in. The Diablo Campfire channel that we have open in the Scrappy Academy server is always open. You guys can certainly chime in as you will. I keep notifications on for that, so I'll definitely see it and respond back. So you guys can certainly do that at any point in time. And then if you guys need other questions, you can certainly reach out. Nemo obviously is very busy with his channels. Like I said, Jen has the Shattered Soulstone. I can never think of the name
Yeah,
right. Shattered Soulstone
it's the
podcast.
Shattered Soulstone Discord is there. I'm in and out of it when I can, and yeah, I post news in there and stuff every so often, and sometimes I'm in there hanging out. Not always, but it's yeah. We have a server. We have a Discord server.
Yeah, it's definitely a great place to hang out, especially if you're playing D3. She's got her own community, so if anyone wants to kind of hook up with them,
If I could just
You know, and then-
if I could just say something, and I don't expect anyone here to know this, but I'm not a she, I'm not a he, I'm non-binary. I go by they, them. And I'm not trying to, shame anybody for getting my pronouns wrong, but it's just something that you may as well know since part of your Diablo community includes people that are LGBTQ. So that's all.
well, not even that community, all communities in general.
Yeah, that's true. But we were kind of focused on a very Diablo one, so anyway. That's all.
And then on the other side, Wad just reminded me in the chat, if anyone, and I've seen a bunch of activity on it as well. Anyone wants to receive updates whenever these events go out or similar announcements, in the Scrappy Academy server, there is a pings role up at the very, very top, and there's an option in there to get YouTube announcements and events announcements as a pingable group. If we have anything going out, major updates or news, we'll certainly add that on and you'll get a notification. Totally elective if you want to or not. There is a Twitch one. I don't know if that necessarily gets utilized as much, but the YouTube and events definitely works.
Sounds good. Thanks, Fred.
No problem. We'll definitely spin this down. And thank you very much, guys, for joining.
It was a pleasure. I'll see you all in the next one. I'll be here, hopefully.
See y'all.
Bye.
All right, bye.